Harlequin Audio is proud to bring you For Baby's Sake by Janice Maynard, a Harlequin desire novel performed by Graham Halstead, and An Heir for the Billionaire by Cantrell, a Harlequin desire novel performed by Corey Snow. For Baby's Sake by Janice Maynard. 1. James Kavanagh liked working with his hands. Unlike his oldest brother Liam, who spent his days wearing an Italian tailored suit, James was most comfortable in old jeans and t-shirts. Truth be told, it was a good disguise. No one expected a rich man to look like a guy who labored for a paycheck. That was fine with James. He didn't need people sucking up to him because he was a Kavanagh. He wanted to be judged on his own merits. Sure, he was entitled to a share of the family fortune, and yes, he'd added to that considerable pot with his own endeavors. But at the end of the day, a man was only as rich as his reputation. At the moment, James was painting the soffits on his own house in the heart of Silver Glen, North Carolina. The 1920s bungalow was a beauty. Original hardwood floors, large windows that let in plenty of light, and a front porch that was made for enjoying warm summer evenings. Of course, summer was little more than a memory now. Before long, it would be time to put up the Christmas lights. When he thought about tackling that chore, he realized he had some peeling paint that needed attention. Such was the life of a carpenter. He poured most of his man-hours into renovating other people's homes. His own place came way down the list. As he dipped his paintbrush in the can balanced precariously on the top of the ladder, something disturbed his concentration. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw movement at the house next door. Lila's house, a house he once knew all too well. It didn't matter. He was over her, completely. The two of them had been a fire that burned hot and bright, leaving only ashes. It was for the best. Lila was too uptight, too driven, too everything. Still, something was going on. Lila's silver Subaru was parked in its usual spot in the concrete driveway, but it was far too early for her to be arriving home from work. He gave up the pretense of painting and watched as she got out of the car. She was tall and curvy, and had long blonde curls that no amount of hairspray could tame. Lila had the body of a pin-up girl and the brains of an accountant, a lethal combo. Then came his second clue that things were out of kilter. Lila was wearing jeans and a windbreaker on a Monday. He could have ignored all of that. Honestly, he was fine with the status quo. Lila had her job as vice president of the local bank, and James had the pleasure of dating women who were uncomplicated. Not bimbos. He had his standards, after all. There was nothing wrong, though, with a guy having fun. Did it matter if his most recent girlfriend thought Kazakhstan was a new heavy metal band? Not every woman had to be a rocket scientist. As he watched, Lila closed the driver's door and opened the door to the back seat. Leaning in, she gave him a tantalizing view of a nicely rounded ass. He'd always had a thing for butts. Lila's was first class. Suddenly, all thoughts of butts and sex and his long-ago love affair with his frustrating neighbor flew out the window, because when Lila straightened, she was holding a baby. Lila had a blistering headache. It didn't help that James Kavanagh was watching her every move. He didn't even try to hide his interest. Sometimes she thought he deliberately worked outside so she could see his gorgeous body and obsess about everything she had lost. Today, she didn't care. Today, she was in deep doo-doo. The humor in that comparison barely even registered. Grabbing Sibby's little body in a death grip so the squirmy infant wouldn't slide through her arms, Lila marched across the yard. At the base of James's ladder, she paused and stared up at him. "I need help," she said bluntly. "Will you come down so we can talk?" If he agreed, it would be the first time in almost 3 years that the two of them had carried on more of a conversation than, "Nice day," or "Your mail's on the porch." They tolerated each other.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?